All right, welcome to From the Roots Up. Today we're actually outside instead of in the kitchen, which is kind of cool. It's a beautiful sunny 65-degree day, Saturday day here in Oklahoma, and we're doing a little work on the tractor. Now, I've never done hydraulic stuff before today. I was trying to use my tractor the other day and fluid started leaking out. I'll show a clip of what that looked like, which told me, hey, something is wrong. I assumed I was going to have to take it somewhere and pay a lot of money. And after watching and attempting, at least on my own, found out that replacing seals is not that difficult. It can be kind of a headache, and I got a couple of tricks that I learned along the way. I did this one already. I'm going to go ahead and do the other one and show you how to do that. So let's get in here and get started. So first off, obviously the bucket is resting on the ground. You don't want that up in the air at all. We're going to take the pressure off when we undo these lines, and if the bucket is up in the air, it's going to fall. When it falls, it's going to shoot fluid out of the line. I didn't learn that the hard way, thank goodness, but you just want to make sure that everything is off and at rest. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is just disconnect these hose lines. We're not going to take the elbow joint out of the cylinder here. We're just going to unhook the hose itself. Now I've already loosened I took both of these off before I started working on one, and then I decided that since I had to learn a couple of tricks to do this, that I would put this back on, sort of, so that I could show the process. So I'm able to do these by hand because they've already been done. I'm just going to tuck this back out of the way. So that's the first step. The next step is taking the pins that hold this cylinder in out at the top and bottom. Now the pins are supported by, here, look at the other side real fast. Pins are supported by a bolt instead of a regular cotter pin or something. For me, this was a 10 millimeter, and you just pull the nut off, pull the bolt out, and that leaves you with a pin like this. I recommend starting with the one on the bottom. And so let me grab a screwdriver and a hammer, and once those little bolts are taken out, find somewhere to lay my tools. The pin will come out, and that's going to slide down, and that's okay. The first time when it does that, hydraulic fluid is going to squirt out of these nozzles. So if you've got a bucket or something to try to catch that in, that's helpful. I'm going to put the pin back so I don't lose it, and I almost said so I don't mix them up. They're different sizes. If you try to put it in the wrong spot, then it's not going to fit. You're not going to be able to get your pin back in there. We're going to take the second one out, and I like, if you've got an extra set of hands holding this up and supporting the weight, helps a little, but if not, just keep tapping. And I like to push the screwdriver all the way through and let the screwdriver hold it up there while I'm moving my other stuff. Now when I'm ready, I grab hold of this and pull that back out. Again, when you start lifting up on this, you're going to lose hydraulic fluid. Mine is empty because I've already done this. Go ahead and take this all the way out. Now, one of the first things that I ran into is not having the spanner wrench that we need to unscrew this cap at the end. There's a tool, little spanner wrench that hooks on there. If you don't have that, it's okay. After you pull this all the way out, I'm going to put it back in just on the top, and that's going to hold that for me so that I can get my pipe wrench on this bottom section here. It just screws in. We need to unscrew it. It's very difficult. If you have a workbench with a big vise that you can put this in. You can take it into your shop. Since I don't have that, I'm going to pin it back in here. That gives me something to push against, and again, this is already loosened because I've done it. You might even need some kind of a cheater bar. I used my T-post driver just to give myself some extra leverage. Right now, I don't have to do that because it's loose and I can take it off by hand. But that is my first tip for not having some of the tools that other people have. Now we're going to actually come back and do this again here in a little bit. I'm going to put that pin back in and leave it. We're going to go over to my workbench now and pull this off and take the, I don't know the right words for these, but take this piece out. Alright, so now all we're doing again is unscrewing this piece. I've got some large vice grips, just help get a grip on it, but it can be done by hand. Once you get oil, hydraulic fluid, grease, and this just helps to have a good grip. Okay, once that is unscrewed, this whole piece is going to slide out. Okay, with that out of the way, the seals that we're replacing are on this piece, which moves up and down, and they're on this piece, which is stationary. This is bolted on by this enormously large bolt, and this is what we're going to use the tractor for, to be able to remove this. The first video that I watched, a guy just used his impact driver and was able to pull this off. So I thought, hey, what a great idea. All I need is the right size bit, and I can do that too. My little Ryobi impact driver was not strong enough to ever budge it, and so I wasted $10 on that bit that I didn't need, because a good old wrench works again if you have a good sturdy vise to put this in. That is one way to do it. I don't, so we're going back to the tractor. All right, this time we're going to put this side in, down at the bottom, and it will, you want to be careful. I'm going to clean this really good. You want to get the dirt and grime and stuff off. You also don't want to ding, scratch, scrape, but this doesn't hit at least my bucket in any way because this is in the way. So I can let it rest there while I get my big wrench. And this is actually the part that I had to use the T-post driver as a cheater bar. So let's see if I can do it without it first. Okay, nope. And that's also why my little Ryobi couldn't quite cut it. But get some more leverage on there, and it loosens right up. So there's my second little tip that I learned. Now I'm just going to make sure, make sure I can get it where I can take it off by hand before I pull this pin out, because I don't need it to be any harder than it has to be. All right, let's go back to the workbench. All right, so I've got my package of new seals here. Some of them are going to go on this piece. Some of them are going to go on this piece. You want to make sure that you don't get these turned around facing the wrong direction, and you want to make sure that the seals are facing the right direction. Most of these, the rings, don't matter. They don't have a direction. But like these guys have a distinct front and back. If they're going the wrong direction, they won't function the way they should. All right, so again, be careful with the direction. Zeus, buddy, hey. Our helper is not being very helpful. Hey, buddy, say hi to the camera. You got to stay off the camera, man. She can't love on you right now. All right, so I'm going to take this bolt all the way off. I like these little magnetic trays. It just keeps me from losing stuff, even if that fell. And it sticks to my metal table, so I can keep everything where I want it. All right. I'm gonna take this piece all the way off. It might need a little encouragement. Just be careful. You don't want to scratch, scrape, or ding any of these pieces. The seals don't matter because we're yanking those off, but this may need a little encouragement to get off. But just be careful. You don't want to bang it with a hammer if you have something soft that you can tap it with. But once that comes off, we want to remember the direction that it came off. Okay, if we put it on the wrong way, I don't know if the bolt will even fit back on there snug, or the nut, excuse me, will even fit back on there all the way. But it's not going to function properly, and so we want to remember the tapered end goes on the inside, at least on this one. I don't know what the different shapes might be. And then this piece now is free to just slide right off. Now this outside piece, there's a lot of dirt, gunk, grime. That's okay on the outside. That's part of what these seals do, is protect that from getting inside. But you see, when I took that off, we're gonna clean all of this stuff off real good before we put it back. So these are the pieces that we're concerned about right now. I'm just going to lay this out of the way. All right, now most of these are pretty simple. If you look at this great big piece here, there's only one like that came in the kit, so that's going to go on the outside. This next piece here, there's one that looks like that. Before you disassemble this, if you have at least the same kit that I have, you're going to go, huh, they sent an extra washer or an extra O-ring. It's not the same size as any of the other ones or the same color, so it's not an extra in case you lose it. Well, then later you realize it goes underneath that one, so it's actually going to go inside like that. Then there's one little bitty one that is on the inside. So we'll do those later, but I just want to show and to keep it all together. That's that piece. Now this piece has a little more going on. There's a big rubber ring right here on the against the edge here. There's a couple of them that are here. One of them is an O-ring. The other one is this flat. It's not rubbery, it's more plasticky seal, and those sit right next to each other there. Then on the inside, this is the real booger. Inside of here, and you can see where that's already, this one wasn't leaking, but I'm glad I pulled it off. We're going to replace it because this is damaged already. I don't know how well you can see that. So that's going to be this piece, and then further inside is this piece. Now right away I want to show you that has to go inside that little hole, and that's where the next trick is going to come into play. So the first thing that we want to do is just get all of these off, and I'm just using a little set of picks. I like this one with the angle. You can kind of get underneath the ring and then you can pry it or slide around. And we're just going to take all these. Again, we're not worried about damaging the bad ones that we're pulling off. We don't need those anymore. That one really could probably just be pulled off with your fingers. Okay, that's the outside. Here's our new ones. Now the inside, getting them out is a whole lot easier than getting the new ones in. Since this one is disfigured already, I'm just going to use that to get my pick under. There, and that popped out. Now, what I planned on doing, like the first one, was this coming out slower. Because what you want to see, and you can see that edge that was sticking out already, so it was going this direction. Okay, the little gap in the back, like this, is facing the inside of this cylinder. So you want to make sure that you get it back in the same direction. What I actually like to do is take something like my screwdriver here and just run that through instead of laying it down and then forgetting, do I turn it this way or the other way? That reminds me that that's direction that one's going to go. Then down inside here is our second one. I don't know how well you can see in there. Very brittle. It's coming apart. We want to make sure, I don't care about damaging it, I do care about seeing the proper direction that the new one needs to go. And so that's the main reason I'm trying to be careful with this one. Of course, I saw the other one, I already know, but if this were my first run, yeah, so brittle, it's just falling apart on me. All right, that's okay, that's good enough. There's more in there I need to clean out. So the way this is sitting, where'd the new one go? It doesn't even look like the same ring. It doesn't look like the same size. It's been compressed so tightly. But just like this one, where that gap is facing the inside, it's going to be the same with this one. And so there's my reminder. Now I just got to keep scraping bits out. You don't want any of the old stuff left inside of there. Okay, there's the rest of it. That makes it look more like it's supposed to look. So now you see how that line, that gap is facing the inside. So we don't need those. We don't want pieces of the seal. We don't want pieces of dirt, metal filings, anything. We want to get this really clean. Okay, for cleaning, you can use rags. If you have a little brush or something, you could even get a can of some of your hydraulic fluid and give this a bath and make sure that you get all the stuff out. The problem, whoa, you okay, buddy? The problem with cleaning this out the way I'm doing it with a dry rag is I'm drying everything out, and so I'm going to want to lubricate these a little bit and make sure everything slides and moves like it's supposed to. But for now, we're making sure we get all the junk out. So just give me a minute to do this, and then we'll come back to adding the seals. All right, that other piece, this wide one popped off really easy. This next one, I can't take them off without breaking them. Again, we don't really care. It's not very stretchy. It's not like a rubber band. It's more like hard plastic, which the real problem is getting the new one back on, because it is also not very stretchy. But this is what I was mentioning earlier. When you get that one off, there's a secret hidden O-ring down underneath here, and the new one is going to go on really easy. Again, we're not worried about tearing up the old one. We just want to get it off and make sure we don't have pieces left in there. So I almost forgot, there's a little bitty one on the inside of this too. So it's also a stretchy rubber O-ring. It fits down in a very snug groove, but once you get a pick underneath it, that'll pull out. Give me a second to get this one cleaned up, and then we will start reassembling. All right, now let's start putting the new seals back on. I'm going to start with this little one because it's so much easier. You've got one that goes inside the middle there. I'm just going to put one finger in the back and hold it right in place on that one edge, and then just start stuffing. It's flexible and it pops right in pretty easy. So that one is good to go. On the outside here, we had the big one. It's a split ring, and so it goes on really easy there. And then this big gap has the small, is that green? I think that's green. Yeah, that's I'm colorblind. The small green O-ring That drops right in. Now this one is going to be tricky. The thing is, it's not, look, it's the same size. It has to stretch to get around this to sit on it. It just has to. All right, so I might get yelled at for this, but I'm more worried about stretching or warping one corner by putting this on and trying. Look how much it has to go if you wrap it over the side and try to stretch it. And so what I did on the other one is I kind of loosen up the whole thing. Now, yes, this is making it stretch a little bit. Again, it has to stretch. Once it gets on there though, it seats back in that ring. When we slide this, when we assemble the whole thing, there's going to be pressure on the outside pressing that in. And so it's not going to have room to warp or blow out. We just have to get it on. So I'm kind of softening it a little bit. Somebody can yell at me in the comments for this, but my other option is to stretch this so hard, risk breaking it, and then wait 3 days for Amazon to send me another one. So this is what I did. The other one, it fit just fine. And then I'm taking it, I'm seating it in there with my thumb on one side. I just need some tension. And I'm just going to start stretching. And you can see how far it has to go. Like, there's no avoiding stretching it. But as we start getting it there, we can take our pick and overcome. Now it's on there. I'm just kind of going around and making sure it's lined up all the way, making sure it's not twisting anywhere, and it's not. Again, once we place it on and slide it back in that, I don't know, the tube part, it's going to press it back in place and it's going to be fine. You can see how small some of these other seals had been compressed by being inside there. The same thing is going to happen. So, all right, we're done with that one. This one, there's a couple of really easy ones. This largest one goes on all the way up against the casing. That's fine, that one's done. These two are going to go, this is sort of the same thing, but it's thinner and it moves a little easier. I don't need the pick. You do want to make sure that you untwist it because it bends a little bit. Now that's going to go on the outside and the O-ring goes next to it here. Okay, and again, I'm just going all the way around, making sure they're seated snug, not twisted, not overlapping each other. Okay, that's going to be good. Now the fun begins. We've got these two, especially this big one, that has to go inside of there. This one goes right at the edge. It's easier to do, but don't do it first, because then that just makes your hole even smaller that you have to wedge this one through. Here's what I got. They make a tool that will go in here and spread and smush and disfigure and make this where it will fit down in that hole. And then as you release the tool, it'll expand back into that groove. I don't have that tool. I don't want to order and wait for that tool. And so I made my own tool. And here's what I did. Okay, I don't remember why I have these. They probably came in a kit. It's just some little vice grips, but they're needle nose. So what I did is I wrapped the teeth in just some normal, here it is, some normal electric tape, because I don't want the teeth gritting in and chewing and damaging this seal. So here's what we're going to do. This is the direction it goes. I'm going to take my pliers here. I'm going to put this on the inside of the ring. I'm going to take my straight pick. I'm going to use the center of my vise, the gap there, as a pivot point. And I'm going to take and I'm going to press this ring through the teeth while I'm holding it. And this is a little bit tricky depending on your workspace or somebody being with you. I did this the first time. I'm trying to keep my hands out of the way of the camera though. While I'm holding it, well, I just can't keep my hands out of the way of the camera. I'm going to take and I'm going to tighten those clamps down. So what's happening is I'm capturing that seal just like that. Okay. I'm going to get that as small as it'll let me get it, and very slowly and easily slide my pick back out. Okay, this is basically what the tool they will sell you does. Now, we got to go down inside. You can see from the back. Let me get my, where'd my other pick go? There's a groove right there that this has to seat in. All right, with it on there, I'm going to take and just insert it. And see, that compressed it enough I could get it through there without cramming it with the side of the screwdriver. Now I may have to use the screwdriver a little bit still, but I got it started. And what we need is for one edge to make it into that groove. I don't know if you can see inside there. I'm not quite there yet. You can see the whole edge of that ring. Once it fits in that groove, it'll expand out, and that's going to give me more room to work with. I'm going to use the screwdriver a little bit. Okay, right there we got the first edge in there where we want it. Now if I can keep from losing my grip on the pliers, okay, you can see the edge on this side made it in. The other is still folded in because that's what the tool that we improvised did, but now, looky there, we just pop it in place. So there's my makeshift inner seal tool. It doesn't make it super easy, but it makes it a whole lot easier than having nothing but your fingers. That seal is in, we're in good shape. Now we want to add this last one. Similarly, this is bigger than the hole that goes in. It's smaller, so it flexes more, and the lip that it needs to go behind is right here on the edge. And so we're going to take and pop it in, and with our fingers just mash it all the way around. The biggest thing with this one is making sure it doesn't twist like some of those others. Once you get it in there, I'm just going to make sure that it pops all the way back into place. Okay, if you look now, underneath, right there, and you see that the bottom edge of that seal that's sticking out? That's the reason it's not going all the way in. That just needs to be pressed into that gap. I'm going to use the non-point of this pick and just mash it back behind there. In theory. All right, now seals are all in place, both inside and out. Everything looks good. A little bit of hydraulic fluid to kind of lubricate this up will help a lot. Just because with these new dry seals, you don't want them to have so much friction that they're going to twist or bend or warp inside of there. So we're just going to take this very easily, slide it on there, kind of look and make sure your seal still looks good on the edge. And again, with a little bit of lubricant, it'll go on just fine. It doesn't have to go all the way to the bottom. When we slide it back in the whatever that other piece is called, canister, I guess, it's going to push it down, but I would just rather work it down as far as I can first. Now this piece tapered in on the inside for this model tractor, and again there's a seal inside there. A little bit of hydraulic fluid just to help. That'll just slide over the edge, lock into place, and then I'm going to put our nut back on. And remember, to get this off, we had to pin this back on the tractor to get enough torque to loosen it. I don't know if it has to be that tight or if it just tightens itself over time, but you can see how much distance I have to go, and already I can't finger tighten it because it's like a lock nut. There's a plastic seal on the outside edge. So I'm going to go ahead and pin it back on the tractor just to make sure I get this down snug without having to fight or wrestle it. Again, obviously a good strong bench vise would probably do the trick, but I don't have one, so let's head back to the tractor. All right, back at the tractor, I'm going to go ahead and pin this bottom piece in, and this can just stay. You want to make sure that you line up the hole with the hole on the frame because it's really hard to twist this inside there. If you go in straight, or at least mostly straight, then you don't have adjustments to make to pin that in. Now again, for now what we're doing is tightening this nut down. I'm not going to pull the cheater bar out and push it as hard as I push to get it off, but I want it to be on there tight, which it is. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to wipe this down real good one more time, but we're just going to leave this on here and reassemble the arm while it's on the tractor. So let me go grab a rag and the rest of that piece. Okay, you do want to look inside here, make sure nothing in there, nothing got in there, it's not contaminated, it looks clean, smooth, everything looks good. When we place this back on, the hose attachments have to be on the inside so we can hook those back up. So we're going to take this, and again, those seals that we just put on are creating a tight seal against the inside of this, and so it's going to be a little bit tight. A little bit of hydraulic fluid on there to lubricate those up will help. And here's where We just need to screw this piece back in. If you remember, I hooked it back onto the tractor so I could get enough torque to take it off. That's why we assembled it on the tractor. I've already got it hooked up, so I'm going to hand tighten it as much as I can. That one large seal that we put on has to disappear inside there. So if you only tighten it enough where it's filling the gap, that's not enough. You got to keep going. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and pin this top side in while it's still easy to twist, so that when I start putting torque with the pipe wrench, I'm not just twisting this whole thing out of line. Okay, I'm just going to get this started for now. We'll come back and tighten those later. While I've got them in my hand though, I'm going to put the other one down in here. Alright, now back to now. Already that's getting a little difficult to do by hand. Don't have a lot of room to work in between here, but I've got enough. Hopefully you can see everything there. So if you can see, we're getting close. There won't be any gap left at all. That seal does not go in between them. It goes up inside there. All right, good and tight. The only thing left is to tighten up these little bolts that we took out to get the pins out. I'm gonna do that before I forget. I'm afraid if I hook the hydraulic lines up first, I'll be so excited to make sure it worked that I'll forget to tighten these. So this is just self-damage control, doing these first. I need as much of that as I can get sometimes. Now I did leak some out, not much. As soon as I saw that it was leaking, I shut it down and I waited till I had a chance to do this. It did end up losing some fluid, and of course when you take these off you lose some that's inside of there. I'm going to fire this up and just for a couple of minutes make sure that the seals are working. I don't see anything leaking, but before I actually use this, need to check the level. Actually, it's probably a good exercise to go ahead and drain and replace all of the hydraulic fluid and the filters, but that's going to have to be a different day, and maybe we'll record doing that as well. All right, the last thing that we have to do is just reattach these hoses. Now on mine it's pretty simple. This one is only long enough to reach the top. I couldn't put it down there if I wanted to. The other one is long enough to go down. If you have a different setup, you might pay attention or mark these before you take them off. But all we got to do is snug those on. All right, the hoses are back on. Now I mentioned before we did lose some fluid, but we lost ounces when this thing's used gallons, and so I really think that it's going to be fine to just test it. What I want to do is just lift the bucket up Give these things a chance to pressure up and to work, and make sure it's not still leaking. Make sure my seals... Thank you, Miss Chicken. All right, since she's done with the show, the way hydraulics work, there's going to be a little bit less fluid in there now. That may affect the pressure that I get, but I'm not lifting anything, or we're not going to lift a bale of hay with this. So it should be okay. Once everything starts pumping through, I hit the lever, divert it through these hoses, give this a chance to pressurize back up. We should be able to lift it up, let it set there long enough to see if fluid is still leaking out. Again, I'm not going to do any work with this until I have a chance to. I'm going to go ahead and drain and replace all the fluid, all the filters. But for now, we're going to fire it up and see how our patch job did. All right, there's rainwater coming out of the bucket, but I didn't see any fluid running out. There's a chance that, can't tell if that's fluid or water. I might need to tighten this one connection. But when it was coming before, it was coming right out the cylinder itself. It was easy to see. Yeah, it looks good to me. I'm happy with that. I hope this tip helped you out. Thanks for watching. A lot of our videos are not outside, but I do have some videos, different projects that we've done. Be sure and browse around our channel, find one of those, leave a comment below. If I did this wrong or boneheaded, somebody's going to tell me. But if you actually got a good idea from this, then I would like to hear that as well. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.